Good Friday afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome on in. Once again, to a special Friday edition of PWTorch Fireside Chat. It's January 6th, 2023. And the news of the day, Tyler, is kind of what we figured the news of the day would be when we were on the air yesterday talking Vince McMahon. And the guy has stayed in the headlines once again, although now it's not a Wall Street Journal article that we're discussing. It is actual fact. Vince McMahon back on the WWE board of directors, Michelle Wilson, George Barrios with him, and McMahon back angling to and or making sure that he's going to have his hands on a potential sale of WWE, but also the media rights negotiations that are set to take place sometime in the next 6 months, or next 4 to 6 months, according to various sources that are kind of in on the stuff. You've been a star of the YouTube channel today, man. But it's good to talk to you. I've been watching all the stuff, being like, oh my god, I got to get in on this, and finally here we are. So what's up?
There we go. Hey, it's good. Yeah, triple duty day. No, I mean, when a day like this happens and then people are able to come on and talk about it, people that are, more so than me, better at sourcing and reading through things. Brandon Thurston on here earlier to basically read the boring corporate statements that I want to breeze over and kind of talk about without knowing truly what's happening, and have him just read it verbatim. So he made me and hopefully everyone else that watched that smarter. Than Wade, obviously is well sourced and kind of confirmed a lot of the palace intrigue I was thinking about today. But I'm just kind of want your take mainly here, as this is, people have seen me, but one thing to, and I know you think the same way, so I don't even need to really comment unless you want to, but the one thing to not forget in all of this fun, as a relative term, palace intrigue that we're all talking about today, and everyone's, eating up content to get more and more information, is the total lack of any sort of denial or acknowledgement of the horrible acts that Vince McMahon has perpetrated. And, it's one thing to think about. Sorry, I didn't really plan to do this here, but now I'm talking about
look, it's important. It is an important thing. So
I just hope that, me specifically today, jumping on and doing all this content, I don't know. I just hope it's not propagating any sort of that behavior in the long term. Hopefully it's not, but I just know, I have the honest know I'm cautious. I'm conscious of that, and am not advocating for any sort of that behavior, even though we are, getting views, and I'm doing lots of videos because it's a hot topic. So just want to make sure I let everyone know that.
I mean, no, you're right to call that out, and I obviously we're here to cover it, whatever the situation is, and I think we do need to comment on the fact that they're not commenting on the allegations either direction. Like, Vince McMahon isn't bringing them up, and WWE as a company and the board of directors aren't talking about the allegations and really the reason why he left to begin with. And I think that is important, man, because I think for so long, forever, Vince McMahon has been just a business first guy at all costs, at any costs, whether that's Jimmy Snuka, whether that's Owen Hart, whether that's countless, just injuries in general, and independent contractors, and he's a business first guy, period. And you're seeing that come through here too, where it's like, okay, allegations be damned, I'm going to be here, I'm going to do this. And there's just a level of hubris there for Vince that is like, to me, it's kind of like a juvenile lack of understanding of the situation that he's in and how he got into this situation to begin with, which is not like, oh, the board tried to oust you just out of sheer, they don't like you. It's, no, you did these XYZ things that now came to light and should have been brought to light a long time ago. And that's why this happens. And there is like a big disconnect with that, in terms of, I think, a lot of reporting on this, and I'm glad we're bringing it up because it's not just about that. This was not Vince McMahon just didn't retire because he felt like it. There's some serious allegations against him, and that's why he was forced to leave. And I think the fact that he's just going to try to swing on back in is it's telling, but also just confirms what we already know about the Vince McMahon character too. And I don't mean character on TV. I mean the character of Vince McMahon, the person, chairman of the board.
Yeah. I mean, if again, not to plug all the videos today, but Brandon Thurston kind of read a line from yesterday from the board about the total 100% no vote across the board. No, I guess double use of the word board there, but and that there are essentially, they were alluding to allegations that are not publicly known or issues that Vince McMahon would be causing to the public image of the company that are not known to the public, essentially. So there's definitely more shoes to drop on that front. And that feels like the ebb and flow of this is especially, I mean, not to, again, we're going to get, it's what to talk about, but let's say you're in a bidding war, hypothetically. This is just me throwing this out here, right? No sourcing. But if, let's say, Comcast, NBC Universal and Amazon are battling for this, and would it behoove one of the people who maybe are in second place in negotiations to get some information out there that makes Vince McMahon look bad, and so they take a lower deal because now the company is in a place where they have to sell and whatever? That's probably a little elementary to think like that would happen exactly that way, but it's not good. It's not a good point of leverage. Think of it like a trade in sports, right? If you're going to trade a star player and then something comes out, they lose a lot of you lose a lot of leverage as the team trying to trade that asset. So same thing here. There's a reason that the entire board voted no to have him come back, and partly I would say it's because he is a morally bankrupt human being from all reports, and also it's not good for selling or keeping everything the way it is, make money. So, and
that I think is the key thing, because you got to think that there's a lot of people on that board that are like Vince McMahon, that are just probably ruthless business people. Don't, allegations be damned. Hey, we have a quote unquote, what do they call it? Like a fiduciary responsibility to our shareholders, right? And so it's fascinating that even those people are like, yeah, Vince, like, you're not best for business in this instance because you don't bring enough value on the business side, and then on top of that, you have all these terrible issues and allegations that you're still working through, and there's still more to come potentially based on reporting today. And so it's like, it's really not worth it getting back with you, because I'm telling you, if Vince McMahon was the only one that could go in there and negotiate the best TV deal possible, you'd have people angling for him to come back and do that. Like you would. And so it's telling that he's just not in that position, and that his own company is kind of passed him by in some ways. And this is his last gasp, but also successful by all accounts as of right now, attempt to get back in the driver's seat. And that's interesting. I'm like the soap opera of all this and the drama behind the response by Stephanie McMahon and Paul Levesque, I think is going to be very interesting. And Azan, to answer your question here, he absolutely can negotiate deals. It's not that he can't. He has, you can credit billions of dollars in revenue, WWE revenue, to deals that Nick Khan has already negotiated, as far as Peacock and television contracts and a multitude of other things. So he definitely can. I want to see the response here. And Wade, if you guys who are watching live have not seen Wade on this, he broke down kind of the situation and revealed as much as he could from the sourcing that he's done. Some really interesting tidbits. So head over to that video. It's right on the YouTube channel, right before this one in the feed. Him and Tyler, it was a really fun discussion and really fun to listen to. But part of that is that we don't know what the next step's going to be, and that this is going to be this is the beginning of a long story. Another chapter potentially just hit and it's not as meaty as maybe you would have thought. But WWE did hold an employee meeting today, following the news of Vince's return to the company. Fightful has details of that meeting on their site right now. I'll just read through them like bullet pointed. And then Tyler, we can discuss that a little bit, and everybody in the chat, like, jump on in as far as your thoughts go. But the meeting, again, this is from Fightful. The meeting was pushed back slightly, so it started at about 4 Eastern, so about a little bit 18 minutes ago. There was not talent involved in that meeting. They're noting that in the meeting, it was stressed that the day-to-day operations of the company are not changing across the board. They said Vince is only there to be a controlling shareholder, and within the possibility of a sale, as well as the media rights deal, which is what we know. Stephanie, Nick Khan, and Frank Riddick were the ones who led that meeting. And here's the interesting part to me. This is the last bullet point that they have, and again, this is from Fightful. They say it was noted that the sale could be a huge positive, and that they would be looking at potential sale offers before negotiating the rights fees. Vince McMahon will get the final say. They said that a sale might not happen, and the company could be taken private if there's a sale. It was portrayed that this move was made to look at the market, to maximize rights fees, and a potential sale price. So I would say no real breaking news there, Tyler. What stands out to me is that, like, they're looking to sell this company. Like, that, is a prominent goal of theirs. If you look at kind of, okay, we're going to negotiate that, we're going to figure out if that's possible first, and then we'll negotiate the rights fees. So, I mean, I think that's interesting in a vacuum, just because it's like they're collectively, it seems like they're okay with letting that company out of their hands. And we talked the pros and cons of that yesterday, but it's interesting to kind of see that called out in the open, though.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we all not hear what we want to hear, but, like, I heard not that exactly. And when you read that, right? Like, I think it's an option there, but they also say if not, then we'll negotiate a rights deal and we might go private, which means they would sell it just to Vince McMahon, right? That's who you'd be selling the company to if you go private. So, with the change in the stock, that makes it more difficult. But, maybe Vince McMahon knows that he's toxic at this time. And if it doesn't sell, and maybe if they're in between a rights deal, and the stock goes down to, $35 a share instead of 85 or whatever it finished at today, that'd be a more opportune time to purchase the remaining shares that he needed to take it private. But so I think that's probably in order of where they're all thinking of, independent of what I think, it's price sell, keep it the way it is, or then go private, or probably the 1, 2, 3 options right now. But Vince being involved puts a wrench in all of that for me on the true motivation. And as much as everything's happened today, like, the Vince McMahon and Dana White comparison just is so apt, like, across the board. And if it does sell, and you find a company, especially Endeavor, Brandon today said they were, I think his mind, it's Comcast, Endeavor, and then Amazon would be the top 3 in his mind. So I'm not trying not to put words in his mouth. Those are the 3 that he went over in order today. Yeah. And Endeavor has already, stuck with a guy like Dana White, and you knew that he was damaged goods in polite society, I guess is the best way to put it, but kept him on because he's kind of the face of that company. And I think Vince feels very similar in a lot of ways. So, an Endeavor buy, and he did reference the CEO of Endeavor. I forget his name right now, but he's on The Town, which is a Ringer podcast that I listen to frequently. And I do remember him saying that he would love to buy WWE, but didn't seem like they were for sale about a month ago. So now things have changed. And that seems to be the best case scenario for a Vince McMahon type in my mind, is you sell it, but you get made the pseudo emperor of that company brand that's owned by another conglomerate. I think that is kind of my leading indication where this is going at the moment, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Like, that, I think, is the big, that's where, if you're Triple H and Stephanie, you're going, wait a minute, Like we had the keys to the kingdom, and now we don't have the kingdom at all or keys to anywhere. So, that's going to be an interesting thing. They went out of their way again today to say that the day-to-day isn't changing. However, the talent wasn't there. So, is this the day-to-day isn't changing in the finance department and the, sales department and the marketing department? Like, could be.
Because he wasn't there at HQ, right? Sorry to cut you off, but that was what I saw, that he wasn't at headquarters today at all.
Yeah, right. That's what I saw too. And so, so just because it means that business is going to stay the same for the corporate office doesn't mean it will for the content or the product. Like, I mean, who knows? I mean, I think everything's up in the air at this point. I have a question. Like, this isn't necessarily Vince McMahon related, but I think it's an interesting question, and I'm just curious to discuss it.
Okay.
Like, this is such a silly way to frame this question because it's like 90% possible that the reason I'm asking you, I'm going to ask you to discard this reason, but it's probably like 95% the reason why it's happening. But if you're Vince McMahon and you're that company, like outside of making $5 billion, like what's the reason to sell this now? Is it like, I mean, obviously that's going to be a big reason, but if you take that reason out, silly, I know, but let's just, for the sake of discussion, like what's the benefit? I mean, you don't get an increased platform. You don't like, I mean, I guess you have more responsibility in the day-to-day operation of things, but you just like, you make $5 billion and that's it. Like I don't know if it makes the product that much better. I don't know if it increases the reach of the product, the viability of the product on Wall Street. Like, I just wonder like what they get out of it outside of $5 billion. And, they could have sold this company for billions of dollars many times, in the last 10 years. They haven't. So I wonder, like, to me, like I just wonder if they feel like the cash cow of like the rights deals is going to go away. And so like the only way to make one final play, and position their content in a way that can maximize revenue is to just put it up for sale, because they're not going to get the same money for it time and time again as the media landscape changes. So I find that just kind of fascinating. But what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like some more concrete reporting to fully give you this take, but let's assume where my mind is and where this take is based on before but it seems like as soon as Vince stepped down, the kind of chattering about selling the company all but disappeared in my mind. There was not a ton of reporting on it, and it's now back with this version. And this is a good corporate reason to explain why you need to come back. If you are not someone who's following this, tracking this, like we've talked about yesterday, if you're not an insider, if you're not a hardcore person following this sort of thing, and you are popping open the Wall Street Journal, you're opening your TD Ameritrade app, and you see the news that Vince McMahon is back to try and sell, WWE. It's very much like Bob Iger at Disney, right? He was the CEO, he stepped away, and they replaced Bob Chapek, and then is back now, and he's going to save the day, right? If you're the layperson, that's what this seems like. So that's like, from the outside perspective, can justify to a generic stockholder who, I'm going to guess the majority of the 1.5 million people watching Raw are not stockholders of WWE, just like as a guess. I'm not, and I watch it, right? So it seems like a facade for a guy to come back and get control of his company. I know it's been the narrative I was spinning the whole time, but that's the only way he can get back without being sued by shareholders or being reprimanded by the board that if this is the one reason he can get in there and get back control, then he's going to say it and do it. And I even saw a report that, it's unsubstantiated at this point, but there was like a rumor that if he comes in and says he's going to sell the company, doesn't, the stock suffers, that common shareholders can then sue the chief executive officer that makes that decision. If that were to happen, then he would, declare bankruptcy on the company to fight back, which I'd like more reporting on that too. I saw that as while we were waiting. So don't take that as gospel truth. That was just literally me trying to find info for the 15 minutes in between Wade and yourself were on here. But to me, it feels like the reason to sell is Vince cannot sit there and let someone else run his company as well or better than he did. And if that's the end of them running the company, he gets to be the guy that sold it. That's great. Or it's a way for him to wrestle back power because he's he's being a petulant child about this essentially, and is taking his ball and going home.
But even if that was the case, like devil's advocate here, even if that was the case, like if Vince McMahon like wants to still run his company, like he could come back and just do that. Like I don't get the selling part, because if Vince McMahon wanted to come back and be executive chairman or whatever and just supplant Stephanie, he could. Like he has the power, corporate power, to do that. Instead, he's kind of doing that, and then now we're gonna try to sell this thing. So I wonder, like, why it is that, like, if he wants back in so bad, just why not just get back in and throw your weight around and get back into the exact position you were before? Like seemingly that'd be on the table based on, my semi knowledgeable understanding of how, these corporate movings take place. Right? I mean, am I off base?
Yeah, I think, again, it's probably a good question for Brandon. So,
but I know we're shooting the breeze. Like, we're not breaking news here.
But it's like, it to me still feels like a Trojan horse for him to get back into power, right? So you say you're doing some major thing that only you can do, that you convince 90% of the people following the space, not people here watching this, and know that what he is and what he's doing. But like, from that corporate mindset of like, okay, yeah, he's the guy that started it from nothing, took it public, and now he's going to come in to sell it, and that's how he gets power. So I think it's a way to, instead of just like strong arming blatantly and kind of dumbly, to come in and just be like, hey, I'm back. Like, there's no reason for it. This is all a facade potentially, unless there's a great offer and he takes it, right? So I'm hedging there, because I don't know for sure what's going to happen, obviously. But
sure, that's smart.
It seems like a way of plausible deniability of like, I did need to come back, and the offers just weren't where the overlord of WWE, decided that we're good and we can get a better offer in 5 years. But hey, I'm here now. Let's keep working. Let's all do it. It's he's not going to retire again. So either way, it's a win for him in his mind. Either he sells it, rides off, and probably does the Dana White bit and runs it, or is the face of it, or he gets some control back, and then we'll see, post WrestleMania, if Stephanie and Paul Levesque are spending more time with their family.
I just want to see like the next piece of like new WWE Network or Amazon Prime or Peacock exclusive has to be like Vince in the boardroom with a boss like Jeff Bezos or something like that. Like I just can't imagine that guy wanting to play ball and work inside a corporate structure that's not his own self-created madness. Like that's prime content, if you ask me. Prime content.
Yeah, well, that's why Endeavor, I think, is a good fit, because I don't think there's any issue with Dana White still like being out there for UFC, 282 or whatever the next one is, after all his, his slapping of his wife at New Year's Eve and everything. So, and you have, great, reporters, again, yeah, anyway, not to, but like he blacklisted Ariel Helwani years ago, and that was fine. He got to keep going there after they sold. So that feels like peas in a pod to me.
Yeah.
Endeavor to buy WWE, obviously the correlation between, the triangle of correlations I've made of people the last couple of days are not a good company to keep, I would say, with Vince. And Mr. January 6th, so this is a good anniversary for Vince and his friend. They control the day, I would say. So. And then Dana White, that's the triangle.
Let's see what kind of texts Vince and the Donald are sending back and forth on a day like today.
Yeah, you're like, hey, you want to be vice president?
yeah, right. Oh gosh. Let's get to some of the comments here. Amos, thanks for tuning in. Say they do sell. What if a lot of the top stars get out of their contracts a la WCW? That would severely hurt the brand and the potential sale. I mean, yeah, it would. But I don't think, like, this is not a situation where WWE is swooping in at the 0 hour to like just buy the shell and what's left of WCW. Like, whoever's buying this is going to spend a lot of money on it and is going to want the contracts. Like, the WWE, when they bought WCW, was the opposite. They wanted a handful of contracts that they could afford. That's it. That's why Kevin Nash and Hogan and Hall and Sting and Goldberg and Flair initially, that's why were not brought over. The contracts were just too massive for the WWF at the time to onboard. That's not going to be the situation here. If Amazon buys WWE, they're going to want all the talent that comes with it, because if you don't have talent, you don't have a product. So like, they can't have, Roman Reigns not around. They can't have, like, it has to be them onboarded at all. So, I mean, I don't think that's I don't think that's in the cards, Amos, because it just, like you called out, it hurts the brand severely, and you're not getting what you pay for in that instance. So I don't see that happening at all, Tyler.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess I shouldn't be laughing about it, but those AOL contracts in 2001 are more employee friendly than the WWE contracts. So, like, if
I'm laughing about that.
It sucks for the workers. They've not done a great job advocating for themselves in WWE but that's not having any competition either leads to that too. So I understand that as well. But so if they got bought and I don't know, Otis doesn't want to work his deal, then he might get his downside of whatever, 60, 100 grand. I don't know what the downside is for a normal main roster person if they're injured, but probably not more than that, right? So that's a tax write-off for some giant conglomerate.
Right. Exactly.
And honestly, any contract would be a tax write-off for anyone that were to buy this. Like, if Amazon bought them and dissolved every contract and wrote off, that's like 1% of what they're going to write off that year as a business expense. So it's kind of also what we talked about yesterday from being fans of a wrestling company, puts it in an advantageous position to be a little fish in an ocean when it gets bought up by a conglomerate like that. So
yeah, exactly. Let's see here. Tom says, hey, Vince, he could easily take over for creative Monday night, and Wall Street wouldn't bat an eye the way he's presenting himself. Like, this is true. And this is why I think it's important to analyze it from like a wrestling perspective, but also from a Wall Street perspective. Wall Street doesn't care about who's running like the day-to-day creative of the company, like that, the stock's at an all-time high, or not even, it's not at an all-time high, but it's high right now. And like the ebbs and flows of like the stock price really has nothing to do with like the success of the product as you and I see it. It's really not about that. That's like too low level for lack of a better word. Like, investors aren't watching the product and going, that was a hell of an episode of Monday Night Raw. Like, let's buy some more shares of WWE stock. Like, that's just not how they're analyzing it. So yeah, I think Tom, he could come in and just start running Monday Night Raw again, and the Wall Street's going to look at numbers. So, I think, Tom, I think you're spot on with that, Tyler.
Yeah, I mean, I think so as well. And I think, I'm trying to think of a situation where, the stock would drop because of who was in control of Monday Night Raw creative, right? It would have to be like, I don't even know. It'd have to be Kanye West is now doing creative for Monday Night Raw, and there is a whole anti-Semitic opening act that is here's the snippet of what it's going to look like. That would drop the stock, but like beyond something insane like that, it doesn't, like Wall Street and people, financial people, do not care one iota about who's running the TV show, because they're not watching it and they don't care about it. They just care about the money coming in from the TV deals and the live events and all that stuff. So only we care about that.
Yeah. I mean, for sure. Brandon jumps in here and would love to see some of the top tier talent pull Ben Simmons and sit out until Vince leaves. Yeah, I wouldn't hold your breath, Brandon. I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, you got to extend that the whole way through then, right? Like you have like a Seth Rollins who now does not do dives to the outside because he's just like has a mental block, right? He just it's like the main event of WrestleMania, and Roman is scared to do a spear now and won't do it anymore, and his game is totally impacted. I'd say that's a pretty good gimmick if you ask me.
That is.
And then you come back a year and a half later, and then you're a shell of yourself. You're hitting like you're only doing one cock of the arm for the Superman punch. It's like a whole arc to do.
Right. I'm going to jump to Christopher's question, or Christoph, excuse me. Thanks for joining us. Do you have information about what corporations specifically showed interest in buying WWE? Tyler Wade revealed some. You want to jump into on that?
Yeah. I mean, I'd say, the big three at the moment, as it seems to me, are Comcast, who obviously that's the most likely destination because they have the rights to WWE content on Peacock for longer than these media rights deals were, right? I think that happened. I think they have like 3 more years.
Yeah, 3 more years. Yep.
So that is like a hard lift for anyone else to buy it at this time, which I think has been under discussed. That if, let's say, Amazon, so it would be NBC Universal / Comcast, everyone would view that corporation, Endeavor, who owns UFC, and then Amazon trying to get more live event content for Prime. But if anyone else besides Comcast bought WWE, is there a deal where they can, is it just that good stuff will live on, all the library and the PLEs will all live on Peacock for 3 years until they can go to Prime? Like probably, which is like not going to help the purchase price unless they think, if they pay, let's say $8 billion, can they make that up in, 8 years with that part of the deal? Maybe, but I think that it's like a big sticking point and doesn't give you any good leverage if you're WWE, which makes me think this is not going to sell ultimately because of things like that. But beyond that, I mean, you've got your other players, but think of streaming providers. I don't think Apple, I don't think Netflix are good fits for wrestling, and I don't think that's their brand. HBO Max, Discovery, Time Warner don't fit very well either. Fox Sports could do it. They're making a little bit more of a play for live events with, soccer. Wrestling can be a little bit more international than people think. So that's where I would be. But yeah, what do you think, Zach?
Yeah, I think it's Comcast. I mean, I think that's where you go first. I mean, if you're WWE, that's where you go, because NBC Universal, they own the Raw rights right now. So like there's an added investment there even outside of Peacock. So that would be like just more harmonious, like of a situation. And WWE has been in business with them for a long time, outside of now. I mean, they go way back, USA Network and whatever, Saturday Night's Main Event, NBC, like they go way back. And so that I think makes a lot of sense. But
if 2 schlubs on the internet know that, then like I think there's people that make exorbitant salaries that know that too and are not going to let that. If you're another company, you'll be like, okay, well, that's your best bet, and they could lowball Comcast, and then every other place can be like, okay, we'll give you an extra, $100 million, but like besides that, like it's not as easy to buy it, and that's going to hurt it. So that's like selling it is not advantageous, I think. So sorry, I cut you off.
Well, no, I mean, right. I mean, it's not advantageous, but I mean, you also, I like the leverage though that I think WWE has in this is, well, hey, you're gonna spend $1 billion anyway to get Raw, or so like, okay, you're gonna spend it anyway, and in 3 years the Peacock deal is up anyway. So like they'll use that to try to their advantage. And also, I don't think they're gonna. I think their valuation is like 5.5 5 billion, 5.6 billion or something
Yeah,
like that?
I think it was 6.5 at the peak today. It's the stock price.
6.5. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously you're going to play ball a little bit probably, but I don't think they're not going to take a bath just because, they're partners with Comcast. Like they're going to get the best deal possible. I think regardless of who it is, let's do a couple more here.
Mhm.
I want to comment on this, and I'm curious as to what your take on this is, Tyler. So Twan jumping in saying dark days have returned. I guess I'm just not feeling that way yet. I mean, outside of the fact that it's just bad that Vince McMahon just gets to waltz back into his own company and amid the allegations and not mention it, like that's dark. That's dark. That's twisted. Unfortunately, that's also, life and probably at many corporations, and that's not a good thing. But as far as like it goes from like a product situation, like I just, at least right now, I'm like, he has to play this out. It can't be like, oh, he's back to try to sell the company and then in 2 weeks run creative, right? Like, so it could very well be that he's not involved in the day-to-day, and he's not involved in the day-to-day creative. So I'm not as worried about it being a dark day for that part of it. Now, maybe Rock and Cena don't want to work with WWE with Vince McMahon at the helm because it could change those types of things. But I think if you like Monday Night Raw right now and you're somebody who is enjoying the Bloodline storyline on SmackDown and you are confident in Paul Levesque's booking, like you at this point, I don't think you're going to see like any major differences to that. So like the dark days are kind of like behind the scenes, not on television like it was when Vince McMahon was the head of creative. Maybe I'm naive. I don't know. But that's just kind of my vibe right now.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that, and Wade and I talked about this, that Paul Levesque has kind of thought this was going to happen all along and has not changed a ton from the product, right? Like I put it at 10% difference. Like if you were to somehow quantify like how different, Raw and SmackDown look today versus in May of 2022, it's like different. There's different people, the people that have come back have been the main differences, but like the way the stories are structured, there's less DQ finishes or less, there's a little less 50-50 booking, but in general, like if you put a layperson and told them to watch May and last week, I don't think they'd be able to tell you like a ton of differences in the booking and how the show is presented, etc. Yeah. So from that perspective, I think depending on who you like, who you don't like, that could change. But it's more of a, the vibes are not immaculate right now in the fan base because, that was the big difference, right? Like it was like a breath of fresh air. There's renewed hope on, hey, we're not going to see the same sort of things that we've all complained about for a long time under Vince, independent of all the, horrible accusations. But just from watching the product and it never changing and not adapting, all that stuff, that now, because where I stand. I think if he's in there, I think he's going to work his way into getting things on creative. Like I just think it's I would not bet on him not getting in there and having creative control in one way, shape, or form. Whether it be day to day ripping up scripts and things like that, but I would just say like the kind of hope for a WWE that we all hope for with the talent on that roster and the budget and the production value and all that stuff, it is dampened by events coming back to kind of hard reset things potentially back to the way they were with, I see in the comments here with Omos and things like that. And who knows who makes it, as we talked about, Regal, John Gargano, Wyatt. They're not having a good day. That's for sure.
No, they're not. And Tracy's hard to argue with this. If he's willing to treat Stephanie and Paul the way that he has, he will do whatever he wants. I can't argue. I mean, nobody in their right mind can argue with that. So that's a good Good point, Tracy. Well said. Well said, as usual. Yeah, we'll know if all of a sudden Monday night nobody has last names. We'll know really who's pulling the strings.
Yeah, and if Vince comes out at 30th and Rumble, wins, and then beats Roman at WrestleMania.
Is that, and it's just Seth, and it's just Roman.
Yeah.
God damn. All right, a couple more. Let's see.
I think Seth would be Rollins if they were to drop a name.
Oh, okay. That'd be a fun game to play. Which name would it be? First name or last name?
Yeah. Might as well roll a dice because there's no thought process in that.
right.
No. Flip a coin. Pick a side.
Yeah, we kind of got to this one. Oh, nope. Wrong one. Oh man, now I lost it. Oh well. So yeah, Tyler, I mean, like, I think we could put a bow on this. I mean, guys, we just wanted to kind of hop on and like just kind of wrap up the day. It's been a lot of news, and we'll keep everybody posted on the weekend. Keep it locked to PWTorch.com for anything breaking, as well as Wade's Wade Killer Hotlines. He's been breaking a lot of added detail, so you can go VIP and check that out. Yeah, wild day, and as Wade said, and as Tyler had mentioned, Brandon, this is the beginning of the story by all accounts, and so we're here to cover it, and we're appreciative that you trust us and the Torch to do that. So awesome. Tyler, over to you.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I want to bring up, because Wade even brought it up because he couldn't. You saw Tony's tweet, I assume, Tony Khan's.
I did.
Yeah. So I know you and I are on the same page. Like, that's like a funny joke that you could say like backstage to Pat Buck or something, right? Like that's where you do that, and like that's like the only thing of like I chuckled at it, but like you're definitely like doing the guy pointing at the grave, that meme where the guy's like. Yeah, it's like to Miro, to Andrade, to Regal, right? That's directed to those guys, I think, mainly, if I had to guess, Miro especially. But just interesting, and you can talk about that if you want, or we can finish.
I mean, I think it's a ridiculous tweet. I mean, I really do. I mean, I think it's just inappropriate, really. Like, he's an executive of a company, and so it's like, it's just. You don't act that way, Vince McMahon wouldn't be sending tweets like that, like about, hey, Tony, have any cupcakes on hand that I could eat, like after like the all out thing, like that just wouldn't happen. And I'm not. This is not a praising Vince McMahon thing. It's just like executives don't act like that, and I think it's a when you have to burn like your own talent like that, kind of even too, like, because that's a shot at Miro and some other people who are disgruntled. It's like it almost calls out the fact that you don't have control over what is going on with them.
Yeah, I mean that's like
I think it was just totally ridiculous.
That's the thing. It shows like the thin skinnedness of most humans have it. Like you could think that. You certainly would think that. I would think that. That's a joke I would make.
Sure, it's not that you wouldn't think that. Yeah.
But it shows like that he is sorry, Sean popped in here. It is I was like, what are we talking about, Tony? I don't think so. But it just shows like if I'm a contracted wrestler for Tony Khan, it shows me that obviously bugged him, but he didn't like do a good job letting that talent know that that's unacceptable.
Yes.
And etc. So it just shows that he is more, you can walk over him and get under his skin more so than Vince McMahon, which is, again, I have a game for Vince, but just shows, again, the early stages, if Tony's doing a tweet like that 10 years from now, then I think, AEW's probably in they're on Access TV or whatever, if you continue that mindset, but we'll see. That's just the only reason I bring it up.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just, it's thin skinned and just I just was like, yeah, what are you doing? Like,
I think Amos is right here, though. That's why I pulled that up. He would say it on TV. That's all Tony needs to do. He needs to do that impact character, and that would be. I think that would actually be the better way to get that out of your system. But
yes, Yes, and Tracy, you know, good. I mean, it goes without. It should go without saying it. So I don't think either of us mean to defend Vince here, but
yeah, definitely.
Tony was in poor taste, but Tony still
I
has
just
a bunch of.
I just want Tony to take it. I want Tony to take a W and not like gloat about it once.
Yes,
all I'm looking for. But that's just me personally. It doesn't really, I'm still going to watch Kip Sabian wrestle tonight. Pray for me, but so Tony's stuff is working on me still, so don't worry about that.
Oh, amazing. All right, man. Well, you know, guys, we'll keep everybody up to date on this story. It's a big one, and yeah, thanks again for being here once again, and for trusting us to handle this story with you guys. And so, if you haven't done so, hit subscribe and hit the little notification button so you know if and when we go live next. But yeah, thanks everybody. Tyler, thanks, man. Appreciate it. We'll talk to everybody really soon. Have a good weekend.